Alright, it's 6:31 and we'll get our regular EDC meeting rolling here. Lance, any comments?
We probably need one.
That's all I have.
Go ahead.
The Bay Area informational meeting was good for me. I was wondering what we got out of our marketing dollars, and it was informative, so that was good. I also reached out to a prior EDC member, Brian Horner, about finding out how he did the tree projects, and I don't know, Brad, if there's any. I haven't heard from him, so I was just wondering, is there anything the city has as far as who we used before for these tree programs? Basically, what happened was that we ordered so many trees by people's choice, and then the EDC covered half the cost.
There's some kind of like a non-profit deal where they make these trees available really inexpensively, and I think that's how we got hooked into that deal.
I've asked Brian to, give me some contact details if he has it, but he hasn't replied yet.
Was that EDC or was that when he was on council?
No, it was EDC.
EDC paper?
Yep.
Yeah, I like that program. I think it was a big success. People jumped on it quickly. It was a nursery out of Alvin.
Yep.
That doesn't really narrow it down, but that's as much help as.
I've been there, but
Oh,
you can help me.
You're welcome. Ronnie?
No comments?
Mark?
Just glad to be back after missing 2 meetings, even though I had a great time where I was.
The only comment I have is, I really like this snapshot of the financials. This is really easy to read. I love it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, I mirrored that statement at the last meeting, the meeting before. It's very helpful and it eliminates that whole snapshot that I was doing before, and it's way more informative. The only piece of information I have is we had the Texas Music Office workshop. That was last week on Thursday, I believe, and Pons was there and Brad, and it went really well and it was informative as well. We've got a lot of steps toward getting certified as a music-friendly community, but it's just worked for me ahead. And Brad, I've got an example of the MOU, and I'll get with you maybe next week or something. There's no rush on that. All right, we'll move on to city update, item number 3.
Well, just a couple things before we move on. The building for the body shop is now down. The problem is that slab turned out to be much thicker than what they had planned for, and it's taken a little bit of delay on it, but they are making some good progress. Once that is done, the field's back in there. We'll be working on relocating the utility that was approved by this group. Was going to update on Palms, but that's an item down a little bit further. Not really EDC, but just so you know what's going on. There's some drain covers that are going to be installed starting tomorrow at the corner of Ivy and Oak. So it'll be a little bit of work going on there. There's some road and drainage. EDC, I think that's about all the updates I've got at this time, unless you've got any questions.
I got a question about the slab. Why did we need to take away the slab? Couldn't we just have it underneath?
Big part of it is part of that slab is where the electrical's going, so that's got to come out. But is my understanding from the plans is that it all had to come out. I don't know if anybody else got any additional information on that, but
They were using an electric brake hammer by hand.
probably that's probably the reason for part of the delay.
Yeah.
They were the low bidder.
Yeah. Yeah, they were wearing tank tops and shorts too, but, we'll leave that alone. I did have a question. This may be more of a generic. You mentioned roads and drainage, and maybe this is an offline discussion. Is there a master plan for, and maybe we've discussed this before, a master plan on what's planned where within the neighborhood? And I'm looking at you, Thomas. Sorry.
Kind of.
Okay.
I mean, we do have a drainage plan per se that was done by Cobb Finley years ago, but it looks really nice. It's got arrows and which way the flow goes. There's only one slight hitch that it flows the other way some places.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now is for every road project we are doing elevations, and we are resetting the drain pipes, and well, mainly making them match up at the driveways, because some people have done it kind of on a weekend and it's not really flowing the way it's supposed to go, and that's being rectified step by step, because it's a big undertaking to make a brand new from scratch plan. What we're doing is piecemealing it together as we do things.
Yeah, I know that there was a survey done, and I do remember that, and you know, they were shooting elevations, and selfishly I was just curious if Grove Road had made it onto that list. I'm spending a considerable amount of money to put some pavers in, because right in the front of my house and then the house next to me, it just seems like everything comes there and just sits there for, I mean, even if it spits a couple of
the biggest
centimeters.
the biggest problem we have is debris in the drain. That's the number one problem. And then we have issues where it's either things are settled or somebody has just eyeballed it when they put it in instead of doing it properly. Yeah, and then some places, you know, even our ordinance calls for a certain size, and some places there you don't have room for that size. It just doesn't work.
There's like maybe an eighth of the street that has some storm drainage, and it pretty much stops at Grove Park on my side, and then on the opposite side it stops at Craig Hervey's old house. And
So your low-lying area, is there culverts that come up to that?
no, so the culvert's across the street from me, but where my house is, it kind of pools right there in that corner. And then at that 515 Clear Lake Road next to me, it's the same thing. Just kind of that whole area right where that speed bump is like that's where it stops on when you're coming from Clear Lake Road.
So we're not talking about a drainage clog issue, it's just a low-lying area.
Yeah, I think the bell of the road might be little off, and that might have been done whenever they put the culvert in on the other side. Basically they're backflowing it, and I mean initially, I mean that's the problem I was having. My yard was soupy, you know, like, I mean, you walked in and you sank down to your ankle in mud, so that was part of the problem. And then I removed the grass, you know, and I'm putting in pavers now, and I'm just worried, you know, the pavers are gonna get compromised at some point because of water just sitting on it.
Is your pavers helping to elevate that some in that area?
So I mean, I'm trying to do positive flow back. I level my yard, you know, I'm trying to give as much positive flow back. I put a French drain in the side too, to try to move as much water, you know, back onto the street as I can, but I don't think ultimately it's going to solve that issue. And I didn't mean to bog down the meeting. I was just curious.
But just quickly, just next time it's raining, please, well, which should be in the next couple of days anyway, take some pictures if you don't mind.
There's a lake there now.
No, just take some pictures if you don't mind, so we can get it documented, because we are aware of hawthorn being an issue by the park there. I think it's hawthorn, but we expect it is roots that's gotten into the drainage.
Is your paver project done yet?
No, so they actually just started laying the pavers today.
Curious to see how that's gonna affect it, if that.
Yeah, I am too. It was something I was gonna take offline with you anyways, and I was gonna come talk to Alex and Thomas about, you know, what they thought about Grove Road.
Sure.
It just, whenever, you know, we're talking about roads and drainage, it popped into my head.
Well, they do have a good set of priorities established that they passed off, and I'm working with them on prioritizing everything. In fact, we're fixing to start on Narcissus, getting the.
I was gonna say Narcissus, North Shore. That like is that's much more priority than mine. So. Yeah, just across the street. So between, y'all know.
Not a culvert. I mean, is there an inlet
Yeah.
that goes across the street to that ditch on the other side?
So there's an inlet. There's an inlet right next to a culvert. So it kinda like the inlet doesn't really work. The inlet's in, you know where Craig Hervey's old house is, the big yellow one?
Yeah, but I mean on your side.
Oh, not on my side. There's not, there's not,
That water unless it crosses the road.
that's right. Right, yeah, it doesn't, and, you know, the elevation in Clear Lake Road is higher than Grove, so it's kind of like a bathtub right there. And the grate and the culverts are all on the opposite side.
Thomas, there's no cross culverts there?
I don't remember.
It's not the only street like that, though.
Yeah. All the culverts are on the south side of Grove. Except for at the end of the road, close to East Shore, I think there's a couple of houses right there that have a culvert.
Yeah, we'll go look at that. I mean, I know it's been that way for a long time, I'm just surprised that before they poured concrete, like we're doing on Narcissus, all the cross culverts and resetting all that, that none of that was noticed.
Sorry, I didn't mean to turn the EDC meeting into roads and drainage, sorry.
You're welcome to go to our meetings, by the way.
I know, the problem is y'all's meeting is at like 4, and that's usually when I'm actually getting time to work for the day.
Do you have a vacancy? You may wanna, there's a vacancy on the board maybe, I think.
Yeah, you ask my wife first.
Alright, we'll move on to item number 4, unscheduled visitors. Do we have any that would like to speak? Alright. Item number 5, consent agenda. If everyone had a chance to look at the meeting minutes, and Mark, we missed you. My minutes are nowhere near as good as yours, by the way. I thought you might say that. Did anybody look at the financials for the tax income for April? It was significantly higher compared to last year. I don't know if it's an anomaly or just the way that it was posted, but it was almost 15% higher than last year's. So
I wonder if it was related to weather and spring break and all that.
that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it was.
Or home improvement from the frozen plants, everybody going over to Home Depot and...
I'm not sure. I was trying to figure out kind of a rhyme or reason to it, you know, with all this historical data that Cheryl puts on here now. But I didn't really see any other jumps like that anywhere in April, going back to 2013. Anyway, just something I wanted to mention. But if no one had anything to pull out, we'll just keep on cruising. All right. Item number 6, discussion and possible action to approve proposal for Earthworks to install new irrigation system for recently planted palm trees and landscaping at the city entrance. And Brad, I have you as this.
I may need you to remind me, I know that dollar amount was about 3,100, for some reason I can't get my packet open right now. Anyways, while you're looking at that, it's been advised by arborists that, the spray heads that are currently there will shorten the life of those trees and tend to lead to some rot. We did get a quote for Earthworks to put in a new drip system, which would put rings around the trees and kind of protect those and extend the life and kind of help with that. And that is the recommendation we're bringing forward to tonight. And hopefully Johnny's got the exact dollar amount, or you guys maybe seen it.
I don't. I don't think it was in the packet. I don't think the proposal was in the packet.
Okay.
I'm just looking at that. I can look it up though.
It's not in the packet.
But I do have the proposal. If you give me just a second, I can pull it up. But relating to that, the arborist that we hired, Susie from League City, so, you know, however many years ago that was, she highly recommended putting in a drip system. And when we did replace the trees, she said, make sure y'all put in a drip system and get rid of the spray.
Yeah, whenever we were talking about the palm trees, I remember discussing that. Let's put in a drip.
So the total for the drip system is $39.15. $17.50 is labor, and materials $21.65 for $39.15.
There's already irrigation up there, right? I know, because I know they hit a line, right, whenever they were pulling, or whenever they were chipping out the old stumps.
It is, the problem that I was advised of, and Mike may be able to add on, is that the root system from those old trees has compromised that old system that was in there. Is that what you were understanding when they told the trees in?
Well, I know when they put them in, they busted a couple of spots, so there is a line in there, and they repaired them, but,
We checked to make sure before we went this route that we'd see if it was working, and it wasn't working at all.
Are the spray heads for the other plants not working either?
The spray heads are working. The recommendation is to cap those off. Is if you leave them in there, you're not correcting the problem. This drip system will cover the irrigation for the, I keep on calling them rose bushes, but I can't remember what they are.
Yeah, knockouts.
Knockout roses?
Yeah, knockouts, yeah.
So this should take care of the trees and the roses.
and that was also the recommendation of the company that put in the palms to use
The
a
drip
drip.
system.
Yeah,
Right.
because what we have now is overkill.
I assume it'd be more efficient, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
Generally speaking, they are, yeah.
Sorry?
They're more efficient. Drip
Save
systems.
some water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the total is, $3,915 for the proposal, and that's, like you said, labor and everything together.
Do we need a motion for that? I'll make a motion to approve the 3915.
And that is from Earthworks, who does all the city's landscape.
Second.
Alright, we have a, motion by Thomas, second by Mike. Do we need any further discussion? Alright, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No nays. Okay. Alright, we'll move on to item number 7, discussion and possible action involving public parking lot improvements. This is more or less just a placeholder, kind of an ongoing, for discussion, but there have been updates, I think, on some of the proposals that were received about a year ago for paving both the lots. I think we got 4 or 5, or like 6 bids, I believe, back then, and Brad reached out, and I think some came back. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's, there was the original bids accepted back in September of last year. There was a total of 5. We went back out to those same 5 to just update it because of the time, for inflation, and 3 of the 5 returned updated bids. One of them stayed the same, one of them went down about $60,000, and the other one went up by about $13,000. The thing that I would like to qualify that I just discovered, the footprint where the body shop was at, I guess, was not part of the original plans. So at some point when we do the full project, we're gonna have to be looking at adding that increased cost. Now, I will tell you, the lowest bid right now is the same lowest bid, back in September. There is between that and the next bid, there's about $50,000, so I would say adding that additional square footage on there is probably not gonna come up above that second highest bid, so it shouldn't change the ranking. And I think, I'm not gonna speak for you guys, but I think that in September, the lowest bid was an approved contractor, and there was no issues with that contractor. So we could, because of the difference, I would feel fine going back to that company and get an updated quote from them, or we could go out to all 3 of them again and have them bid. We know they're all gonna come up, but I don't think it's gonna compensate for
Right.
the lowest.
Now, this is all for concrete?
This is concrete,
Did you
yes.
also get the bid for asphalt?
So,
Just so we know the difference.
well, when we went out for bids, it was requested that they come back and bid the same as they did before, which was the concrete. There was one vendor that submitted a reclaimed materials finishing, which was about half. I chose intentionally to leave this out of the packet because if we decide to go back with reclaimed or asphalt, everybody's gonna have to rebid, and it would not be fair to this contractor if his numbers were revealed. So I think we're kind of a point that either we decide to go forward with concrete to council, or we decide to go out and get a bid for comparison and then make that decision on which route to go.
Can you quantify a little bit about what levels we are, or just remind us? I mean, for the revised bids, what the lowest bid was what?
So the lowest bid was, and I can pull up the exact
I
numbers,
mean,
but
it doesn't need to be on the
$550,000. That's the one that stayed the same. The other one came from 668 down to 606, and the other one was 770 and went up to 783. So you're looking 555 up to 783 on the high end.
Did you happen to ask why they dropped so much? I mean, $60,000 is a pretty significant amount.
The one that had the significant drop said there was a drop in concrete cost.
So, just leading to that, and I was gonna say, concrete has come down quite a bit. So, the guy that's holding his number the same is looking at it as perhaps he can make a little bit more, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, because he was low bid to begin with. But I would say negotiate, like you're saying, negotiate with the guy that's the lowest and get him to add that area in, because what you want to avoid is pricing fatigue, right? You keep going out to the same cement supplier, and they're gonna get tired of pricing it, you know, so. If they're pricing it out to, 4 or 5 different people.
Yeah, I'll qualify, I'm not speaking of fact, but the information that I've got so far, when the initial bids came out, this person wanted the job and kind of reduced the profit margin at that point. So this is kind of a time that
Making up for it.
Make
Yeah.
up for it right there. Yes, sir.
I think they also, held the price for a long time.
Yeah.
I think we kept asking them to hold it and hold it and hold it.
Well, and I will say, when they came back, because I verified, I said, this is the exact same one, to make sure they didn't accidentally submit, and they said that is correct, and they will guarantee that till June of '24.
Wow.
Which, yeah, the way today's times, that really surprised me.
So is there is there a formal RFP process that we have to go through at this point? I mean,
Since we went through a formal sealed bid RFP back in September, we were legally correct to just go ahead and get updated, as long
Okay.
as we extended that offer to all the original bidders, and that was done.
Do you have any, guide for, you said you had one person that gave something for asphalt, right? And is it significantly lower, or is it just a little bit?
So let me say this, I have not gone back and reviewed that bid. The dollar amount was about 50% of the other bid, but it said reclaimed materials. What reclaim, and Jesse may be able to expand on that. What reclaim means is that putting some kind of subsurface, and then coming on with asphalt or top. I don't have those specifics, but that quote was about 50% of the other.
if I remember right, they were planning on reusing some millings from some of the other work that we were doing around the island at the time, if I remember right.
When we had Cobb Finley bid this, I think asphalt was only 20%, on their bid, about 20% less. It wasn't substantial, if I remember correctly.
Well, I'm a hard no against asphalt, if anybody cares.
It's not my area of expertise, but I would think doing something that lasts 30 to 50 years would be better.
But we need to decide, are we gonna talk about this every meeting, or are we actually gonna do something?
I couldn't agree more.
I couldn't agree more.
Well,
My only thought is, and I don't want to feel like I'm trying to steer any one direction, but I've kind of, when it comes to this, it's kind of you get what you pay for, and think about a Cat 4 or 5 storm that brings 3 foot of water across that. What's it going to be like at the end? Are we going to be back right after the storm, putting in a new asphalt surface? I'm by no means no expert. I don't know. Concrete may crack and buckle just the same, but from the durability that I've seen around, I think we're getting better chance of that concrete being there in place and ready to open up than we do with asphalt. But I could be proven wrong there too.
So for contractual reasons, would we need to get a full set of permittable documents done and then have them price it one last time with full engineering specs, core samples, the whole nine? Because at that point, like, even if their price is $550 and the engineers get a hold of it and they put their spin on it, that price could turn into $570 or $580 or $590. We don't know. I think from a liability and contractual, we have the obligation to make sure that when we sign a contract with this contractor, that there's something there that's solid, and still carry a contingency, in my opinion. We're talking about 2 big parking lots, anything can be
they
done.
already did core samples out there,
Right, I was just mentioning that. I'm just saying, that a full design drawing needs to happen.
Well-
And the one that was done years ago is, that can be used, the same backgrounds from when they drew that can be used, but it'll still need to be updated.
Well, Cobb Finley did that when the parking lot improvement was done, right? It wasn't that long ago.
Well, the thing too that I've got to explore is that I've been advised that they are not to spec by our landscaping ordinances, and there's some tweaking, some setbacks that have got to be done, the footprint for the body shop. So yes, we need to go back and probably look, make sure everything's compliant, rebid and get everything, up current, but there are some factors out there that will cause this to deviate some.
So back when we did this back in October, the EDC approved $255,000 because there was 300-something thousand that the city was getting from the government back. And is that still, that was one of the issues I think for not approving going forward before, so where does that stand? Because, EDC's not, I'm a hard no on coming up with $600,000 out of EDC for parking lot.
Where we're at today on my recommendations, obviously it'd have to be finalized and approved through council. I'm recommending that those funds that we're talking about for the COVID funds, $240,000 would be available for this project, with EDC making the difference. There are some projects at the city hall that the other needs to go to. There was about $301,000 out of that, and 60 of it's gonna go towards some covered parking over city hall. And
I'm sorry.
just clarifying, this has not been approved by council, this is just my recommendation at this time.
And we did discuss this at the last meeting, a little bit, the contribution levels of the EDC versus the city, and how those funds would be distributed, the $301,000. So, the only difference from our conversation in October is the EDC would be fronting about $50,000 more dollars than we approved before. It has not been approved. The conversation from last meeting was mainly to make sure that everyone's on the same page, and Brad's recommendations and ours, and we seem to all be good, but it still has to be finalized.
So, before any approvals, my recommendation personally would be that we decide which route we're going, asphalt versus concrete. Based off of that decision, we go back and get firm numbers from the contractor, and then we come back with firm numbers to EDC for approval, and then go up to council for final approval. I don't think we've got enough facts and dollar amounts right now to make that recommendation and move forward to that level.
Would a motion be in order to approve, make a motion to support the use of concrete for the parking lot, as opposed to any other surface?
Maybe we could,
So we don't go. Well, we need to show our support.
I mean, just in discussion, I'm in support of concrete. I don't know if a formal motion needs to be made.
Okay.
well, I mean, we can discuss whether or not, if anybody on this committee wants to explore options with asphalt, and,
I don't see why we wouldn't.
I mean,
You make comment about asphalt roads. You've had asphalt roads all over the island for years.
How many of them peeled up during the last two hurricanes?
Yeah, they've been covered up several times, and, you do
Well,
some minimal maintenance, but.
Yeah, the problem with the roads though, we replace them every 10 or 15 years. If they were concrete, we wouldn't be doing that. So that's the difference. Concrete lasts 30 years, asphalt lasts 15, so that's the call. That's what I've been told by the people, the engineers and people that we use out here. So
I think we discussed that in the very beginning, a long time ago. It looks
Yeah,
like
and
we
we
do
never
it,
got a
do it
number
right,
for
and go with
asphalt.
concrete. It's gonna last longer.
I think if we're gonna make it, I guess my point was, if we're gonna make a motion, one of us needs to make a motion to go get some feedback on asphalt versus concrete, and then we can have the discussion about asphalt, if enough people on this committee feel compelled. I mean, Mark, I think Thomas, you were interested in seeing some numbers for asphalt. I couldn't care less. Yeah, I couldn't care less, but I'm not the only person here, so.
We've already been through this parking lot twice with the asphalt tailings and all that failing, and, let's do it right.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, because, we see a lot of asphalt around, all the roads, a lot of roads are asphalt, you see a lot of them that are concrete, and in Houston, everything's getting worked on all the time. So it's hard to say whether it's failed, or whether somebody decided they'd come in and do something different. You know, I know there's
What, yeah,
information on different things, but I think from a fiduciary standpoint, part of our role is we're dealing with the tax dollars and we're dealing with the people's dollars here. So we ought to look for the most cost-effective method. And I do have a belief that you don't necessarily need to discount maintenance on something, because we should be budgeting for maintenance, because we've got a lot of projects on, a lot of things on the island that never got budgeted for maintenance, that need maintenance. They get put in and then they never get maintained. That's not our issue, that's city council issue to deal with, but you should be budgeting for maintaining different things out and around, so.
I think you make a fair argument. I mean, I can't disagree.
But, I mean, if it's really half, you know, then
I just
we
don't
have
like
to
asphalt.
And just out of full transparency, to keep in mind that when we go out to rebid for the asphalt, we're probably talking about delaying everything at least 45 days, because you're talking about 30-day posting and coming back and evaluating, scoring bids and bringing them back to the committees for approval. So, and I don't mind that going that way. Just want you guys to understand.
I was gonna say, I mean, we waited this long, what's another 30 days? So.
Be a best case scenario though. I'm telling you guys, we can kick this ball down the road all we want and keep talking about this, but we wanna build a parking lot that's gonna last 30 years up there. I don't think there's gonna be any reason to not have the parking lot there. And I never go anywhere and see anybody putting in an asphalt parking lot. None of the schools do it, none of the other cities do it. I don't know who puts in asphalt parking lots, do you? You ever see an asphalt parking lot anywhere?
Car dealerships do, but.
Do what? Target?
Car dealerships usually do.
Car dealerships, yeah. Well, they got like cars just sitting there, but
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, we want something that's gonna last a lifetime and not have to require maintenance other than striping. And we've got $809,000 in the account. We got another $240,000.
Doesn't mean we have to spend it all.
Well, we need to spend it. That's what it's in there for economic development. What other projects do we have, Johnny, that's gonna be calling out a lot of cash on us?
We don't have any other projects.
Okay, so we got one project, paving those parking lots. Let's get it done right, and quit kicking the ball down the road. And we've been messing around with this for, what, 2 years?
Yeah.
So, let's get a bid, come back, we'll vote it up or down, and you can get, if you wanna mess around with asphalt, you can do all that, but let's get going on the thing, my gosh.
But one thing I would add, that if you're gonna go out and we're gonna get some information, let's get schedule information as well. 'Cause putting in a concrete up there, and if that's where we go, that's fine. But I can't see it taking less than a month to do that plot, 'cause you're gonna have to checkerboard it and wait for cure times and other stuff, so you're gonna be without a parking lot for at least a month. Where if you put asphalt in, I don't think it's gonna take near that long.
Mark makes a really good point. I mean, you would have to get some third-party testing involved, and maybe that's where Cobb Finley or another engineering group comes in play. Make sure it passes brake tests, and, all of that is important for us to hold the contractor accountable for warranty and whatnot, so.
Well, use Skipper's lot, we'd have that taken care of.
Well, and we kinda touched on it, something else we gotta keep in mind, that when we go back and look at this and reevaluate this, there's gonna be some additional engineering costs on top of this as well.
Yeah.
Whether we go back to Cobb Finley or in another engineer. And this was one that Cobb Finley started this, they've got the base plans, they're probably the best one to kinda pick this up, but I don't think we can go much further without getting an engineer back involved.
Right, so a path forward,
I have one question.
good.
Are you ready, is the electrical moved and you're ready to pour that concrete within 45 days? Cause if we're not, we got plenty of time to get that bid on asphalt because that electrical's not moved yet.
No, and I anticipate we're probably gonna be a couple weeks out from electrically being moved. And then you gotta get the engineer, get updated plans, updated bids. We're probably still a good 2 months out from getting, concrete poured.
Yeah, I agree with that, Brad. I mean, even if we were ready to pull the trigger right now and city council agreed, we're still probably at least 60 days out from swinging hammers.
So it's not getting another price that's gonna delay us, I'm saying.
Well, the thing,
And I'm sorry, Ronnie, we're not Akema, we don't have their budget. We do have to look at the money.
Well, the money, we're,
15 to 20 years, you could pay it twice for the same amount of money.
well, maybe, but the problem is, there's no maintenance, we have no maintenance fund here. We have no way to maintain things. Roads and Drainage can't do it. We are not really supposed to maintain things. I guess if it's our project, we can go back there and redo that asphalt whenever we have to, but I'm just saying that we need to do something that's gonna be permanent, it's a municipal improvement. It's not like something that we're, gonna tear up in the next 3 or 4 years or something, so I just wanna move forward on it. I don't care now, just get her done, plus we got like $800,000 in the bank, we got the $240,000, we got over $1 million available for this project or others, and there's no other likely projects that I'm aware of, although, we would love to have someone come to us and say, get some sewer lines and stuff over here for us, and we'll open a business and agree to be annexed in the ETJ or something like that, but something like that has never happened, and maybe will someday.
But if we can get something annexed, it's probably about now.
It's what?
If we can get an ETJ annexed, it's probably about now.
So it sounds like that, I think it would be, definitely responsible to go out and get bids for both. But I think what you're saying is the next step and a path forward would be to speak to Cobb Family and or other engineer, because we are gonna have to make adjustments, because we know those original plans may not adhere to, I guess it's the town center ordinances or city ordinances or both,
City ordinance.
plus the body shop footprint.
I mean, does it have to be Cobb Finley? I know they've done the plans already. I mean, Cobb Finley's a big engineering firm, so, I mean.
But he's saying just because they've done it all before, it may be,
Understood.
in this instance, on this project.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, they've already got it all,
Who's gonna,
backgrounds and blocks drawn.
who's gonna pay for the engineering? Do we need
That was my next
get a
question.
quote?
So
We gotta
did-
get a quote from them. That'll be at the next meeting, so that'll set us back another 30 days to get them approved to do that.
Yeah, my anticipation is, 'cause the cities doesn't have it's probably gonna have to come back to EDC for that engineering.
We could have a special meeting if you can get Cobb Finley to give us, if that's who we're gonna use. That's our
Well-
city engineer.
One thing I'd like to see, and obviously we're gonna have some new plans drawn up as far as the specs for asphalt, but the quote that I'm putting out there for reclaimed materials, is that truly what you guys are thinking an asphalt project? 'Cause once we get an asphalt project done the way you're thinking, it could be higher than that, and the delta could be not quite as much. It could be back to the 20% that you were talking earlier.
I don't know if that's what we're using to get these bids, but I'll find that detailed pricing. I don't know, did you have it? Did you ever have that? That detailed Cobb Finley
Yes, we
proposal?
did. We had the proposal. At the time, asphalt
It
was
wasn't that-
cheaper,
Yeah, but it was like
but at the time, asphalt was a cheaper option to do. But the engineer said the asphalt will last you 15 years, the concrete will last you 30 years. You look at that, you gotta factor that in, so that's why we decided, we didn't do anything. We put this on here now because we were gonna do another phase, which is what we're doing now. But we built the aprons and had all the engineering and all the drainage done to accommodate either a permanent asphalt or concrete parking lot when we had the funds.
Randy too, the comment was made that, I don't know if it was Okies or this parking lot that had some grading material that needed to be dropped off, about 10 inches? That,
No, Alex and I went out there and shot the elevation on the Okies parking lot, just to see, because, it was holding water at one end, and there were potholes everywhere. So it was his belief that it was just the fact that we put those millings you were referring to. So those millings came from the other roads that we had done, and Brent wanted to just take them up there and regrade the parking lot to fill those holes, but instead of them hauling it off somewhere else, so that's what we did with that. So we went and shot it from that concrete apron on 2094 to where the grates are now. It's a 9.5-inch drop, so that parking lot is made to slope there. It's not graded to slope there right now. That's where I saw Jorge and Odie dug that ditch, so that water would go where it's supposed to. But that's because they dumped the millings on it, they just spread it out, they didn't shoot the right elevation to do it. They just filled the holes, so it goes like this.
Mhm.
But it's poured to go from that apron to where the drains were set. All that drainage has been done on that parking lot, and I have a
think that's what we're using to get the proposals, I'm pretty sure. But I think the question is, some of those Cobb-Finley drawings aren't exactly to ordinance because there needs to be a setback, right? Like a landscaping setback. And then there's just the question of the body shop, which shouldn't
Unless
affect
the
much.
variance gets granted.
They have it over on the Okies parking lot, so I'm assuming you want it to kind of mirror and look the
Sure.
same, with the same setback, same greenery, trees, whatever. If you're gonna do it, now's the time to do it,
Yeah.
so they look alike,
Oh, yeah, exactly.
you know?
Well,
Otherwise, if you don't care, you just do it different.
yeah. I think, and not to get back on the subject, but I think that may be another small argument in favor of getting it done with concrete too, because if future maintenance is similar where we just kind of fill in potholes from time to time, it's gonna turn wavy again. Potentially.
We have a geotechnical report that they prepared too, I don't know, I looked at it, I don't know if it's the most.
So I guess the next step, do we need to get an engineering proposal, and we can have a special meeting before a council meeting or something if we need to?
I mean, well, based on all the discussions I've been involved in, you know, we have the plans. I don't think we would necessarily need new engineering plans. We just need to, take into account the setbacks, the greenery, and the body shop that's no longer there. And then it's just a matter of concrete versus asphalt, or whatever the recycled stuff is.
Well, it sounds like probably the best to give us some situational awareness is to go back and have those rebid with asphalt, see where that
Option one,
delta's
option
at.
two, yeah.
And then kind of go from there, and we'll also factor in, the body shop at the same time.
So yeah, we can have that process going. We can start start the clock on that, getting it rebid that way. But in the meantime, we do need to see about having them revise the plans so that we know exactly, so when it does come time, we know exactly how to get it done.
The design we have now as far as landscaping, that was all approved, the engineers did it, we've been living with this. We're not talking about taking in any more green space with this project, I don't think. So whatever we have now, you're saying that there may not be enough green space, that's confusing to me. I don't know, we have it up front, we have it on the back here a little bit along the side. So that's what Cobb-Finley came up with and it's been approved, so we're just gonna put concrete where we have the gravel, right?
And it may be, as we look closer, we may find out that it's close enough, but it was a point that was brought up in another meeting, and I think we need to owe it to ourselves to make sure we're in compliance with
Right.
our own.
Well, maybe we can look at that and and see and confirm.
turnaround time for this, 30 days, 45 days?
Well, if I can get out, I'm leaving out of town tomorrow, so it'd be next week before we could get the RFP posted. It needs to be published for 30 days, so, and then another week, so I'd say 5 weeks from now.
I'd like to make one comment. After listening to all this, we should think back on when we originally did these parking lots up there with the millings. We went through the same discussion, concrete, millings, asphalt, we're using the millings. It ended up being a big fiasco. We took a lot of grief for it. Ronnie brought up a good point. I can't think of an asphalt parking lot I've ever seen anywhere, including Olive Kima, Clegg Shore Shopping Center. I mean, if all the big guys go with concrete, I think there's probably a good reason for that. And I'm guessing it's longevity.
I remember.
So,
We even did a brochure on this before, when we did it, it was called Frequently Asked Question EDC Updates, February 2020. Track parking lot project facts, and I'll send that, to you and the board, why we use gravel and so instead of concrete.
Okay, do we have, any further discussion? I think do we need to make a motion to bring this back up for RFP?
No, we're not approving anything, we're just getting an update.
I just need some direction on what step do we need to focus on carrying forward finalized quotes on concrete? Do we need to get comparative quotes for asphalt? And what I'm hearing so far is that get comparative quotes from asphalt and then just make a decision after that.
And in the meantime, we need to see if those plans are, meet our ordinances,
Compliance.
compliant. Now, I don't know if there's someone that we need to speak to with the engineers about the little body shop footprint, or if we can make the call that that's just such a minor piece of the puzzle that,
I don't know, I'll kind of defer to Jesse, but I think we could probably get some measurements, get square footage out there, and they could figure that square footage into their overall bid.
okay.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy.
Okay, we're all in agreement, that's the path, the path forward for this? Okay.
Cause I don't think we need to make a motion to approve this anymore. I mean, we've already made our motion and it just needs to go right before council again.
We need to, once we have all the info, we have to do it again and present it to
Sure,
the city
yep,
council.
and
You'll
budget
need a
and
motion
budget
on your
amendments.
financial commitment to the
Right.
project.
Oh, because the amounts changed. Yeah, okay.
Well, we'll have a nice little uptick in the, cash reserves by then too. So, okay, I appreciate it, thanks. I know this is, an exhausting subject, but we'll making progress.
2 years.
Understatement.
It is. Okay, item number 8, discussion and possible action to renew annual agreement with the Bay Area Houston CVB. That's always really hard to say. Like, Thomas said, I think most everyone was there. I don't know if Jesse wasn't able to make it, but, the, local Visitor Tourism Bureau had their State of the Bay annual meeting at Okies last week, and, most of us were in attendance, and, some of you here. But, yeah, they go over all the facts and figures, and, there's a lot of statistical data. I really like that. And, they've really been pushing a bunch of stuff, recently, I've noticed on social media. They came out with a nice brochure. Did anybody save one of those? I meant to grab some and give them to people that weren't able to make it. Also, Texas City came on board as a stakeholder like us, and I think they're hoping to get more cities and municipalities and stuff involved. But it's time, because it's been a year now. It was in the packet, their proposal to proceed with another year, and it's $15,300, which I do want to bring up. I think that we got in for right at 15 before, because we kind of helped them change the way that the structure was, the payment structure. So we came in at 15,000, but they made it a point that it was, I think, going to go up to 17 something or something, but I noticed that this is still right at 15,300. So I won't say anything if y'all don't.
I think they were saying about, it was for a small city type of, membership, and they got Texas City, and I guess she said they were looking to get Dickinson in as well, and so.
In LaPorte, yeah,
LaPorte,
that was, yeah, I
and
couldn't
so
think of
the more they get, then that keeps overall cost down for the
Yep.
smaller players, so.
That's really great. I was impressed by everything at the presentation. But, if someone wants to make a motion,
I'll make a motion that we reapply. Renew,
okay, renew at the proposed.
Johnny, before you
Mhm.
vote on that, I just want to point out that this agreement is a 3-year contract.
That's why it's lower, okay.
I mean, to me, the question is more, do we need it? Maybe yes, maybe no, but on the other hand, it's the cheapest marketing we can get.
Yes, definitely. You can,
More effective than us doing it ourselves.
much more.
that's why. Yeah, the date cut off right at the end, that's why I didn't see the 2025. No, I agree. The question would be, do we want to do marketing at all, or do we want to do marketing? I completely agree with you that this is the best bang for the buck by far. And we talked about marketing, I think, for a while before we decided to jump in on this, and we're all in agreement, so. So yeah, make note, this is for 3 years.
Anyway, we had one motion. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, do we need any further discussion on? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed. Was this your signature, Brad, only, or was it on the proposal? Oh, was it just your signature? Oh, it was mine as well, okay. Man, my printer cut all this off. Okay, I'll get this signed and I'll get over to the city, later this week. Alright, last item, discussion involving the possible construction of a pickleball court in COS. And Mark, I have you down as the...
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know what pickleball is, just ask somebody that plays and they'll tell you everything about it. It is, has become very popular. It's probably the fastest growing sport in the U.S. right now, and it's the only sport I've ever played that you can still play if you're into your 80s and still enjoy it and be competitive. So there are courts in a lot of different places. We don't have one on Clear Lake Shores. I understand that Parks and Park Committee has talked about it, and they're on board with that. Civic Club has talked about it, and they were in favor of it. And so kind of just trying to gauge interest. The cost of I would propose putting in 2 courts side by side. You could do options like putting in a tennis court, but it takes up twice as big a footprint. But 2 courts, concrete with fencing and stuff, is roughly $25,000 to $45,000, depending on the surface you put on and whether you put lighting in and that type of thing. So the big question, if we decided that we want to do that, would be where could you put it? And there's different options for that. I think Parks said something about putting it down the Grove Park and reconfiguring that. You could fit it in there, but it would be tough because of you're right between 2 houses. The most open place to put it would be at Jarbo. Somebody made a comment that there was something that precluded doing that from the grant standpoint. I don't know if that's true or not. I looked at the ordinances and I can't see anything that would preclude us from doing it at Jarbo without approval from...
There's an area behind the swimming pool, between the swimming pool and Jarbo Bayou, that's just kind of blank land that...
Well, Grant Dietz went out to take a look at that. I didn't talk to him afterwards, but see, I didn't know how much room was there, and there's a pretty good slope on it, whether you could put bulkhead out there and put it in there. You could also, where I had looked at was right next to the golf cart parking lot, because that way you don't have to worry about adding any additional parking back through there. So anyway, it was just an idea. A lot of people on the island are players, including the mayor and his wife. Not to train drop or anything, but anyway, there's a lot of people that would like to do it, like to see it. There's a lot of shortage of courts as well, because if you try and play indoors, you got to go join a club or go to all the way to Alvin is one main indoor. You can go to Fairland, and you can go to Hometown Heroes, which is very, very busy. But there's not that many outdoor courts. Kemah now has 4 over there that are available to anybody who wants to use them. And there's some over in Clear Lake, across from where the boat ramp is over there. So, just for discussion, questions and anything.
Any ballpark cost?
Yeah, somewhere between 25 and 45,000, depending on how much bells and whistles you add on.
Is that per court?
No, that would be for, well, it's not going to be twice that, because it's going to be for 2 courts. It's a 64 by 64 footprint, basically.
That gives you 2 courts.
You can put 2 courts on that.
25 or 40.
Is that concrete or asphalt?
Words out of my mouth.
They're concrete.
I was just about to,
You could top it with asphalt if you want, though.
you couldn't resist.
I think it's a good idea.
I think from a amenity perspective, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's pretty cool. I mean, I don't play it personally, but I know there's a lot of people that love doing it. And it's not like our frisbee golf course gets used all that often, but
So I think my question was, I guess it's still open, but would it be just completely open, or are you talking about something that requires membership or gate codes or pool, like the pool, or are you talking about just completely open, anyone can use it?
Well, I mean, I think, well, first of all, you need to put a fence around it, because otherwise people are chasing balls out in the grass, which you don't wanna be doing that. But whether you put a lock gate, a keypad gate, or whatever, that's, most of them don't do that. Most of the
Sure.
neighborhoods, it's open. And somebody I guess you suggested, could we put a basketball goals up there? Yeah, you could do that. You're just, it's just kind of a open, available to whoever. Normally, that's the way they do it, and people, honor that. Usually you don't have too many.
Sure, well, yeah, I was gonna say, and if we spent, EDC money, I think it may have to be. Right, it has to be public. Yeah, okay, I was just making sure that that's what you're envisioning. Okay.
The locks on the pool are more liability issues, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, but, I don't think you got that for pickleball court, really, but.
Yeah.
I think if we can get like, maybe some buy-in from where it should be, that's gonna be a big step. And then we could do the financing. One approach would be for us to declare this a project and ask the city secretary to post it in the paper for comments for 60 days, and then for us to have a meeting after that, at that point, to approve the thing. That's a requirement for an EDC project. It's such a small amount, I don't know if it's really required for something under $50,000, but then we could have a public hearing at our next meeting, and people could come and express their thoughts about spending the money, and then, but that's a whole different thing than where we're gonna put it. That, to me, the money is less of a situation than where we're gonna put the thing.
Right, yeah.
With the people here on the island.
Well, and my thought around that was, not to kick it down the road, but let Parks Committee kinda manage that part of it, because that's really part in their purview to do
Absolutely.
that, and, have them come up with one or two or three options or whatever, and have a recommendation based on that.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask Ed and Mary, they're both here. Where did y'all come up with on, I mean, what are your thoughts on a location? I mean, I'm assuming y'all discussed it.
You gotta think about if you go with lights, your light pollution, being in the neighborhood. Jarbo lends itself much better to controlling that than.
I don't think you would like it. I think it would be a daytime thing.
Lighting well, especially if you put it on Grove. If I lived on either side of it, I wouldn't want people out there playing at 10 o'clock at night, and behind them.
Houses all around.
Yeah, so that, to me, that was the only, you could do it out there, but it's just more problematic because of the proximity to the people around there. Jarbo doesn't have quite that same issue.
I think it'd still be a good idea to put like a solar powered, just safety light out there, just so when PD drives by, they can make sure there's no teenagers mugging down or something in there, but, right, just some dome light that's up on a pole, not to light it to be used, but rather just for safety reasons.
Well, I think for funding reasons, I think, it's right up an EDC alley, that may even fall into like a type A. If we were just a type A city, I think that would still fall because it's, a sporting activity, so. I mean, as far as it falling under our umbrella, I think, yeah, definitely, funding wise. It's just a matter of, if Parks, if y'all wanna take it on and figure out where it would go, and, if you even wanna do like a range, like this is the most basic you can do, and then this is what, you guys decide you really, really want, and then you can decide where it would fit on that range, whether you wanna go two or larger, or end up putting basketball, or maybe nobody wants basketball because maybe there's kids out there all the time and no one gets to play pickleball. I have no idea, but it's just something.
I think it's a great idea.
I think overall, yeah, anything to get people outside and
Also, it work out.
Yeah, well, yeah, Mary. Well, maybe, and, you know, since, for BEC funding, we can only replace anyway, you know, we can't repair, but, maybe this could be packaged if you guys do decide that Jarbo is the right place. You know, kinda package it as like a, you know, a Jarbo Park, you know, improvement project where it could incorporate, you know, some new playground equipment for young kids, pickleball court, and just have like a whole, like a phase almost.
That's a good idea, because otherwise somebody's gonna say, oh, this is not the park.
Well, EDC has the funds, legally we can pay for it. Y'all just need to bring us a plan, and it needs to be an integrated plan, so everybody buys in, and then we need to adopt it as a project, get it done in Kemo. I'm looking at stuff over there, this Foster Park down here on, is it Fifth Street or
Sixth Street?
Sixth Street? They've got all that roped off, Kemo, the kids can't play on those down there, so I've got a proposal now from, the company makes those really expensive ones. I mean, it's like several $100,000, but it's really nice, it's got tinted things and all this stuff, and EDC over in Kemo's looking at, you know, doing that.
There's a couple of big players, I think, that make most of that equipment, and one of them is the parent company of the one that did all the bike racks. Just FYI, but yeah, but that's just my opinion. I think it'd be nice if it was almost like a, you know, a good Jarbo project and kinda mix a bunch of, or not a bunch, but just mix stuff for kids and adults in there. I think that would make sense. Any further discussion, or?
So you said 64 by 64, Mark, roughly?
Yeah.
So that's about the size of what is it, 2 lots in Clear Lake Shores, right? It's about 4,000 square foot. Yeah.
It's bigger than the body shop footprint.
Where the body shop is would be a perfect location, except for the fact that it's right next to Marina Bay.
For the city, how about the city garden property?
That's popular.
But, I
That's where a
mean-
lot of those places are.
I mean,
There's a lot of,
if you wanna think outside the box, as Mark's saying, it's a really fast-growing sport, and if we were sporting a pickleball court right there on the main drag, I mean, yeah. Two
Oh, yeah,
birds, one stone.
let's not talk about parking anymore.
So we would be 8 people at one time playing and maybe 8 waiting or something, so wouldn't be that many extra.
And you can charge a membership fee, we can turn it into a revenue stream. And then maybe Mike can get his golf cart, transport service going, and
We good? Any further discussion? I think that's a great idea. I like that.
So y'all are, Parks is good to go ahead with that, or y'all gonna pick up the ball there, or is
do we
that,
need to make a motion for that?
do we need to have to motion to that?
I don't think we need a motion. I think we just discussed that we're all interested in.
Yeah, we need to figure out where to have it and then get some, you know, proposals.
If you know of anyone to reach out with more information on it, that would be great. 'Cause I don't know anything about pickleball. But I would like to learn.
Rob's out of town right now, but Rob's fixing to build one on Mark Massey's property for him, a personal one. So I think he has all those numbers. I was telling Johnny, I got one proposal right there in local. Got solar lights in it too. Yeah, I mean, they're doing, you know, Mark, they're doing a Cadillac, so
Mm-hmm.
you could probably do lesser than what they're doing. But he's gonna light his for play at night, so that'll be a whole different deal.
So Rob's out of town, he's on vacation, so we weren't gonna bother him. Yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna have
Yeah.
it before he gets back this next weekend, so.
I do have a sketch I can give you as far as the location goes, and
Mary, do you know Rob? Okay, I was gonna say I could. Yeah. Oh, okay.
He's already got a proposal for them, so he's done all the work.
Yeah, that may help get some costs together and design.
Yep.
Awesome.
Even better.
Anything else, Mark? Good. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll adjourn at 7:37.